last February, half term, me and my family went on a little holiday to just on the edge of Devon. We were staying in a cottage. It was kind of one of these sort of discounted holidays that people who work for churches can go on. So I think it was an old retired Anglican vicar that owned this cottage. And I don't think things have been updated much over the decades. So it was quite rural where it was, just outside Axminster. And we wanted to go for a walk. And there was a kind of map with sort of printed out instructions of walks that you could do from the cottage. And so we set out one afternoon at about 4:00 with our 3 children. And I love the countryside, I love walking, I love navigation. And so I set out quite confidently, following the walk through this field, turn left at that gate, take the third right after that large tree. As you can probably anticipate, we got a little bit lost. But I love navigating, I love walks, I love the countryside, I love maps. So it took a little while before I was willing to acknowledge that we were lost. If we just go back a little bit, I think it was that tree, not that tree. I think it might have been that barn over there rather than that barn. Or where are we in relation to the river? Where's the sun? Unfortunately, I really had no idea where we were and eventually had to admit that we needed help. But by this point, it was about 6:00. It was February, so it was dark. The children were quite fed up. And there was no one to ask for help. Eventually, we just found a main road and stuck to it, and in the end, found our way back to our cottage. But I think that is an example of how it can be hard to admit that we need help. It took me a long time before I would say to Charlotte that I really didn't know where we were and how to get back. And I suspect I'm not the only one who finds it hard sometimes to admit that I need help. God helps those who help themselves. We perhaps grew up being told, maybe even being told, that that's from the Bible, that line. It's not. It's from the ancient Greeks, and then through 18th century philosophy, it's been handed down. If you don't help yourself, no one else will help you, we're warned. Pull yourself together and get on with it, we tell ourselves. I get knocked down, I get back up again, the song goes. The show must go on. Real men don't cry. And we know in our heads that this isn't true, that it's okay, that it's good to ask for help. But in practice, we find it hard to do. We find it hard to admit that we need help, and then we find it hard to ask for help. But society's changing, you might say. The younger generation, Generation Z, don't find this so hard. They're good at admitting their limitations, considering their well-being, or working out the forces that they've been victims of. Perhaps the stiff upper lip is dying out, and we're getting better as a society at admitting we need help. But I'm not so sure. The younger generation might be better at admitting something's wrong, but I'm not sure they're any better at looking for help to lift them up out of the pit and using it. Just look at the sad statistics for how many young people are signed off work with mental health issues at the moment, and how few manage successfully to return to work, especially once they've been signed off for over a year. I think every generation finds it hard to admit that we need help. It stings our pride. But many of us, most of us, are Christians. Surely that makes it easier, because as Christians, we've already been helped. The whole way that we became Christians was by coming to God and admitting that we needed his help. Jesus didn't save us automatically. We had to confess that we couldn't do it on our own, that we needed God to intervene. And now we're Christians, all our biggest problems have been dealt with. We've been saved from sin, from Satan, from God's judgment. We're like Moses and the Israelites in Exodus 15 on the right side of the Red Sea, looking back at our once slave selves, knowing that we're now free. We've been saved. Surely it should be easy to ask for the extra little bits of help we might sometimes need from God. And yet somehow it doesn't seem to translate. Or perhaps it translates in the big picture. We can admit that we can't cope, that we don't know what to do, that we need outside help when the diagnosis is terminal, when the life support machine is turned off, when the certificate, the letter, the notice comes through in the post. But it maybe doesn't translate into the smaller things. We still find it hard to admit that we need help. We don't feel that we should need help when it comes to holding our tongue when he speaks, or carrying on loving her when she's so difficult, or just sleeping through the night when our minds are racing with anxiety. Help with eternal salvation, yes please. But the smaller things, well, I should be able to deal with them on my own. Martin's late wife, Corrie, many of us will know, spoke very movingly in the book that she wrote before cancer tragically took her life, of how hard she found it to learn to be the one who needed help. After an adult life of nearly always being the one giving the help, offering the lifts, making the meal, looking after the children, she found it so hard to learn to be the one in need of help, and so often unable to repay others for their help of her. I know how hard I would have found that too. There'll be some among us this morning who know we need help, perhaps some who've recently admitted that they need help, and perhaps some who are struggling even now to admit that they need help. Well, keep listening. Psalm 121 will be a great encouragement. As Martin said, we continue this morning in the Songs of Ascent, poems that speak of going up, probably collected together and used by the Israelite pilgrims as they travelled physically and spiritually up to Jerusalem 3 times a year for festivals. They're songs that speak into the highs and lows God's people face as we journey towards our true home in the new creation. We began last week in Psalm 120, the first in this little series, and we had there a psalmist who'd had enough of being lied to, being lied about, of hearing lies everywhere he went. He'd woken up and seen, perhaps for the first time, or remembered that he was not where he belonged. He was far from home, and he wanted to go home, to be a pilgrim. Well, today our psalm begins, I lift up my eyes to the mountains. Where does my help come from? Another psalmist now looking ahead to the journey and anticipating the dangers he might face along the way. Feeling the pressure, he looks up and out to the hills, perhaps for an escape. He puts his headphones on and goes for a run. He gets on his bike and pedals as fast as he can. He takes the dog and heads out to the forest for some time out. Or perhaps he's looking to the hills not so much as an escape from his anxiety, but because they're the source of his anxiety. They're where his troubles are coming from. I think of the bands of robbers that might lurk in the mountains. Think of how exposed he would be to the elements, of how easy it would be to lose his footing or his bearings. Or perhaps he sees the hills as the solution to his anxiety. Maybe nature is the answer. Being at one with the physical world is what he needs. Or perhaps it's what can be found in the mountains that can help him. After all, the high places were full of all sorts of shrines to the pagan gods of our psalmist's day. Scared about the sun's heat? Go to the pagan sun priest and pay him to pray for protection for you. Worried about the malign influence of the moon priestess can give you an amulet for that. Concerned about demons that might trip you up along the way, well, there are magic formula aplenty at the shrines of Asherah that can help you. Feeling the pressure, our psalmist looks up and out to the hills. And aren't we tempted, as we look ahead to life's journey, to run away, to escape to the hills, to put on our headphones and pretend it's not happening and not face our problems. Don't get me wrong, there's a place for distraction. But aren't we tempted to just run away completely? And don't we feel sometimes perhaps as if the world is closing in on us? It may not be the mountains in the city, perhaps the buildings are bearing down as if these walls, this city, were our problem. And don't we hear so many voices coming from the mountains, promising us ways out and ways through our sleepless nights? Our brand, our philosophy, our cause can help you. Just download this app, sign up to this direct debit, subscribe to this podcast, join this group, then it will be okay. Your problems will go away. YouTube channels, TV show hosts, podcasters, lifestyle magazines, newspaper column writers, friends and family, all full of good ideas. You just need to do this. Here are 5 ways to insert whatever problem it might be. Get a girlfriend, a boyfriend, a spouse, a new spouse. Get fit, get a new kitchen, a new car, a new career. Then you'll be okay. We know what it's like to look up and out to the hills and to be deafened by voices, all telling us what to do, where to find help. Maybe some of us are tempted to follow voices that we know deep down will lead us nowhere good. Maybe we're part way along that path already. Feeling the pressure, our psalmist looks up and out to the hills. But then wonderfully, he looks beyond the hills. And as early as verse 2, we see what that answer to his situation is. And we don't have any slides this morning, I'm afraid, but we have 2 points, and they're easy to remember. So it's just 2 words. And the first is we see our Creator God. Creator. Verse 2, look down with me at the psalm. My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth. Our psalmist looks up and out, and then crucially beyond. For his help does not come from the hills, but from the one who made them. His help comes from the Lord, his Creator God. It's as if the camera, having already panned out to the mountains, now pans up and beyond to the cosmos, and then beyond that to the place where no man, bar God the Son made man, has ever set foot, to the realm of God. And it's here, sees the psalmist, then help can be found. God is not just one possible solution on offer. He is the one who made it all. The one who made the rocks, sun and moon that might hurt you. The one who made the money that does or doesn't sit in your bank account. Who made the body part that no longer wants to work. Who made the child who's gone off the rails. Help comes from the one who sits above it all. He made it all. He placed the sun in the sky and adjusts its brightness each day. He spins the moon around the earth each month. At his command, the mountains rose into being, and he sends or stops the scree that rolls down their sides to trip you up. You may earn your money as a wage, but it's God who owns all the gold in this earth. The body parts you fear will let you down. He formed in your mother's womb. The child who's so hard to love as they walk away is his precious creation. None of these things has any power beyond what God has given them. They're dogs on his lead, putty in his hands, pawns on his chessboard, scared of what the world might send your way. Well, know that the Lord is your maker, and he's everything else's maker too. He's the maker of heaven and earth. Verse 2 gives us who he is. Verses 3 and 4 show us how he helps us, what he does. Verse 3, he will not let your foot slip. He who watches over you will not slumber. Indeed, he who watches over Israel will neither slumber nor sleep. What is our Creator God doing to help us? Well, he is watching over us. It's the image of a guard, of a guardian, of a protector. Think of the terrified child suddenly awake in the middle of the night and screaming, her mind filled with terrors. Her mother rushes through. Don't worry, I'm here. It's all okay. Don't leave, the girl begs. I won't, the mum promises. As she settles down into the chair, I'll be here. I'll be by your side. I'll be watching. Our Creator God is our guard, our guardian, watching over us, protecting us, his eye always on us, never falling asleep on the job. He's not like the tired teenage lifeguard taking his eye off the pool and missing the warning signs that someone's starting to struggle. He's not like us. He's not like Jesus' disciples snoozing in Gethsemane. He's not like the mum, still sat in that chair in her daughter's room hours later as the sun rises, but quietly snoozing now, not watching for monsters anymore. God is always awake, always watching, always guarding his children, every single one of his people, all of Israel. Remember how Elijah taunted the priests in the book of 1 Kings chapter 18 when their god, Baal, didn't seem to be responding to their prayers. Shout louder, Elijah said. Surely he's a god. Perhaps he's deep in thought, or busy, or traveling. Maybe he's sleeping and must be awakened. We have no such fear for our God. He's not just one of us, but a little better, a figment of our imagination dreamed up to make life seem a bit more bearable. He's a whole different being. He's God, the Creator, our Maker, and the Maker of everything else. And he watches over us every moment of every day. If you're anything like me, it could be tempting to think there are perhaps bits of your life that God's missing, that he's not so attentive to. Parts where he's taken his eye off the ball, or whether he's never really been looking at all. He watches over us at church, but where is he in the hospital room of the loved one, in your boss's office, at work, at the dinner table, or in the video call with your extended family or in-laws? Does he not see? Does he not know how hard you're finding that situation? Does he not realize what you long for and what you need? But don't mistake his lack of action for a lack of attention or protection. Be assured, he sees, he knows, he's protecting you, he's got your back, he's watching over you. But how does he feel about this task? Is he like the bored young lifeguard from earlier, watching the pool, but also watching the clock, desperate to end his shift, to get back to his mates, to the gym, to his Xbox? Well, we were introduced to our solution, to the Lord by name in verse 2. But then we slipped in verses 3 and 4, mostly into he's. He will not. He who watches. Indeed, he who watches. But in verse 5, the name of the Lord is brought back in. Let's read those verses again. Verse 5, the Lord watches over you. The Lord is your shade at your right hand. The sun will not harm you by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord will keep you from all harm. He will watch over your life. The Lord will watch over your coming and going, both now and forevermore. And the Lord is named 4 times in 4 verses. 4 of the 5 times that he's named in the poem are in this second half. It could just be coincidence, But I wonder whether the poet particularly wants us to notice that it's the person who goes by the name of the Lord who is our helper. He's not just the maker, he's our covenant God. That's our second point, our second C. We had Creator, God, who helps us, and now Covenant, God, who helps us. And covenant, perhaps we switch off when we hear that word, feels like one of those kind of heavy, clunky, abstract Bible words. But really it's a relationship word. It means a relationship that hasn't just been fallen into by accident, but a relationship that's been purposefully set up, that's been planned, that's been arranged and agreed, that has set terms, like a marriage or an adoption or being the beneficiary of someone's will. And this psalmist is helped by the God who has set up a relationship with his people. The God who knows them, who has chosen them, and who most definitely wants to help them. Think back to God's people's cries by the banks of the Nile, all those years earlier, recorded in Exodus chapter 1 and 2. And the Lord comes down and he reveals himself to Moses, not merely as God, but as the Lord, by this very name, and then saves them out of Egypt, and then comes and lives with them in a tent, and then in a temple, and brings them into a promised land. The God who watches over this songwriter is not some distant, reluctant stranger watching over because he must, because no one else will, because his hands are tied, because duty calls. He's not the jaded security guard who wouldn't really care if the shop got broken into. He's just there to do his job because he needs the money. Our God loves to watch over and protect his people. He is not just able, he is willing. He willingly shelters us. In verse 5, where we're least protected, he's the shade at your right hand. I'm covering the side that was vulnerable to attack as you held your shield in your left hand. With this willing watchman, the sun won't burn you. The moon cannot disturb you. Nothing is going to cause you harm. And our songwriter seems to step back in verses 7 and 8 as he concludes this kind of conversation he seems to be having with himself. How much harm will God protect him from? All harm. In how many areas will God keep him safe? In your life, in all of them. How many details of his day will God watch over? Well, his every coming and going, each time he leaves his house and comes back in. And for how long will God watch over and guard him? Well, both now and forevermore. God will keep him from all harm. But hang on, we might say. This sounds good, but isn't it false advertising? I'm a Christian, and I've experienced harm. For some of us, I'm experiencing it right now. Where's this God who's meant to be watching over me? Where is he for believers around the world today, rotting in prison from having converted from another faith to Christianity? Where was he when Corrie ten Boom was put in a concentration camp for protecting innocent Jewish people in her house? Where was he when the reformers, Latimer, Ridley and Cranmer were burnt at the stake for teaching the Bible? Where was he when Jesus was hung on a cross for revealing himself as a Messiah? This God does not appear to keep his people from all harm. Well, these are real questions and hard ones. We never want to be trite about real, painful suffering. And we mustn't be unwilling to sit in the pain with people because we're so desperate to get to the gospel's answers, though the gospel does, of course, give an answer. But I wonder whether that last example I mentioned, Christ on the cross, points us to how we're to understand this Bible, this psalm, in light of the rest of the Bible and of our human experience and the experience of other believers. Because these psalms are the songs of their individual authors. We don't know who wrote most of these songs of ascent or when, and they became the songbook of ancient Israel as a nation. But they're also the songs of Jesus. Jesus treasured, prayed, and sung these songs. He surely knew this one, maybe even by heart. Jesus likely sung this song as a pilgrim himself on the way to Jerusalem. What must he have thought as he sung it? Well, one day my foot will slip. One day my body will be broken. One theologian imagines Jesus saying to himself, this is for them, for the people I walk alongside. This will come true for them, but only because I must renounce my right to it. I must be accursed and cut off, that they may know what their Father's providence really means. Jesus chose to experience harm. He chose a fate worse than what the rocks, sun or moon could send his way. He chose to be judged guilty of sin. Jesus chose that, not so that we would never suffer, so that we could live our lives wrapped up in cotton wool, protected from so much as pricking our finger. He chose it, knowing that cancer would still come, relationships would still be torn apart, hearts and bodies would still be broken. But Jesus chose it so we might not ultimately come to harm. So that whatever hurt, pain, and suffering we face, we would not ultimately be torn apart and wrecked beyond repair. He chose it that we might one day live a life free from harm with him, eternally watched over, guarded and protected by our Creator and our covenant God. And because of the harm Jesus took for us, there's nothing that we can't endure, no suffering we can't survive, no pain that he won't bring us safely through. And one day we will look back and we will see his purposes in it and the good that he was doing. Our Creator, our covenant God, watches over us, and he will ultimately protect us from all harm. As Paul writes in Romans 8, what then shall we say in response to these things? If God is for us, who can be against us? He who did not spare his own Son, but gave him up for us all, how will he not also along with him graciously give us all things? Who will bring any charge against those whom God has chosen? It is God who justifies. Who then is the one who condemns? No one. Christ Jesus, who died, more than that, who was raised to life, is at the right hand of God and is also interceding for us. Who shall separate us from the love of Christ? Shall trouble or hardship or persecution, or famine, or nakedness, or danger, or sword, as it is written, for your sake we face death all day long. We are considered as sheep to be slaughtered. No, in all these things we are more than conquerors through him who loved us. For I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all creation will be able to separate us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord.